Greetings. Welcome to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Today we are blessed to have with us as our guest, our Brother Abdul Muhammad. He's an author, a student minister, and an experienced educator, and now he's also a high school principal. Here's a clip of him speaking from Mosque Mariam about the value of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to the Black community and to the world as it relates to our problems.
That's a problem with a what? With a solution. If you got bad breath, there's no need for a conference. All you need is some what? All you need is some mouthwash. Swish it around, gargle, spit, rinse, and you good. So there's no need for us to come around and have conferences and meetings on problems that have a what? That have a solution. But I know what you're saying. Well, see, Farrakhan is a Muslim, and I believe in the blood of Jesus. And if the blood of Jesus ain't in it, then I don't want to have nothing to do with it. So when you get the soap to wash your behind, do you call the 1-800 number for Ivory and ask, do you believe in the blood of Jesus before I use this soap? Do you ask that question? No. If you have a headache, do you call Tylenol and say, before I take this pill, I need to know, have y'all been baptized in the blood of Jesus? You don't give a damn about the person's religion as long as what they got works. What Farrakhan has works. His religion doesn't matter. This man has the solution. Why are we on CNN? For what? This man has the solution.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brother.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
And we thank you, man, for granting us the opportunity to have you as a guest on our show. How are you?
All praises due to Allah. Thank you for having me. I'm fine by Allah's grace, brother. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to get right down to it with the interview. So my first question is this. You know, one of the joys I have as being a host of this show, I Have a Testimony, is the opportunity to hear the stories about how various believers came to Islam.
Yes, sir.
You know, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If you'd be so kind enough, can you tell us how you came to be a believer of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Yes, sir. That's a great question, my brother. Actually, the path to Islam for me came when I was a high school student. I was in 11th grade in Atlanta at a school called Towers High School in Decatur, Georgia. And as a young person, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And when I read the autobiography, before I was finished with the autobiography of Malcolm X, I made up my mind. As I'm reading the autobiography, I made up my mind as an 11th grade student at Towers High School that I was going to join the Nation of Islam. Now, I didn't know where the nation, I didn't know nothing about the nation or religion or anything like that. I grew up in the church like many of our brothers and sisters. I grew up in the Baptist church. But when I read that autobiography, I was inspired to join the Nation of Islam. As a high school student, I didn't know where the nation was or how to join. So I started to tell my friends that I was a Muslim just because I had read the autobiography of Malcolm X. So that was junior year. Senior year, I'm sitting in, I'm fronting to everybody that I'm a Muslim. Senior year, I'm sitting in homeroom, right? And one of the brothers in my homeroom, who I had been telling I was a Muslim, he says, "Hey,
Farrakhan is coming to speak. Are you going to go see him? And I was like, I didn't know who the minister was. But I said, yeah, I'm going to go see him. So he was going. And so I got tickets to go see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at the Omni in Atlanta on April the 26th, 1990, for a lecture he did called Add It Up. I was a high school student in the audience at that lecture. And when I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speak, like many people say, brother, I felt that that he was speaking directly into my soul as a young Black person. I had my long Malcolm X t-shirt on, right? And his lecture was so powerful when I heard it, especially the last part on Add It Up. I thought that when we left the Omni, I was like, man, as hard as this man just preached, I just knew that as soon as we left the Omni, we would be getting it cracking right in the streets of downtown Atlanta. So I left. So as we were leaving out, I'm thinking it's about to be a fight. There was no fights. I'm looking around like, man, what's happening? So I got on the MARTA, moving Africans rapidly through Atlanta. I got on the MARTA train and went back to the house. Now, I will say this, that when I was at the meeting, I filled out the pledge card because after I read the autobiography, I always wanted to join the nation. So I filled out the pledge card and I gave it to a brother inside the Omni. And I was like, brother, y'all gonna call me, right? And you know what he said? He's like, yeah, we're gonna call you. Nobody ever called. So that was the Omni in Atlanta after the minister spoke. So I never got a call back from the brothers in the nation. I graduated from high school and went down to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to go to school. So as I'm on Southern's campus, I hear the other brothers in the dorm talking about the nation, talking about the brothers came on campus. And I'm like, man, look, I'm trying to join. Like, it's like ever since I read the autobiography, I had made up my mind. So I was walking one Sunday. I was walking to the library on Southern's campus, and I had my Malcolm X book bag on because Malcolm was my man. And a brother who was a mutual friend of ours, Brother Andrew, had come to the dorm at Southern to pick up some guests, and all of his guests stood him up. When he was leaving to head back to the mosque, he saw me walking with my Malcolm X book bag on. He said, hey, brother, you want to go to the mosque? I was like, this is the invitation I've been waiting on. So I jumped in the car with Brother Andrew. We came to the mosque in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And brother, my mind was already made up. I was already convicted from reading the autobiography. So they could have said anything. I came to the mosque to join the Nation of Islam. So the brothers were doing all the drills. They had all these they was doing all these things to impress us who were there. But I had already made up my mind that I wanted to join. So when they asked, does anybody believe what they heard today to be the truth and good for our people? At that time, they had us stand up. I stood up. I filled out a pledge card at that time. And the rest is history, as they say.
Oh, beautiful, man. That's a very beautiful testimony. You were just looking for the actual space, the actual place just to go, and
absolutely,
Brother Andrew was there. So my next question, I want to talk about your experience in the educational field. You are a veteran educator in the United States, where 8% of the teachers leave the profession annually. It's probably more than that now.
Yes,
but then more than 50% quit teaching before reaching retirement. What has allowed you to avoid being one of those that did not leave the profession?
That's a great question. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that love is the greatest force in the universe. The reason that I'm still in the profession, dealing with our children, dealing with our people, is because I love our people. And that love of our people gives me the desire, right? That love feeds the will to want to work with our people. So Allah has blessed me in the educational field to be in it for, at this point, 27 years, but not to be like, brother, I don't look stressed out. I don't go to work every day and hate my job and like, man, I don't want to be here. This makes me sick. I'm closing my door. I'm not teaching the students. I'm going to sit down and read the newspaper. Not Abdul Muhammad. Absolutely not. Allah has blessed me to have a track record teaching our young people all throughout the city of Chicago in some of the so-called worst schools in the city. I wouldn't call them that. But if you were in Chicago and they said, well, I was at this school, at this school. These are some of the so-called worst schools in the city. And Allah has blessed me to have a tremendous impact on all of these young people. And I never have been where it's like, oh man, I can't do this anymore. These children crazy. They make me sick. Their parents crazy. Absolutely not. Because Allah has blessed us with the truth and has blessed us with the knowledge of the condition that our people are in, but it's also given us the solution to the problems that our people face. So, brother, the reason that I'm still in the profession is because at the root of everything I do with our children is love, and the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad gives you the tools to deal with our children and to change the reality in the public school system.
Beautiful, man. A very powerful statement, and also talking about the power of love and how the teachings instill that love in us for our people. So this is a two-part question. We'll get one of them in before the break. You know, we're talking about the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad and its impact on you as an educator. So my first question in this is, how have you used the principles found in the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad when you were in the actual classroom as a teacher?
That's a great question. I'm gonna try to hit it real quick before we go to break. One thing that we're taught. So the reason that I'm successful. So all the educators that are out there that's in the nation, or you're not, the reason that Allah has blessed me to be successful is because I transposed what we were taught in the mosque into the educational environment. I didn't go in there saying, you know what, you need to follow the minister. And I have no picture of them on the wall and we open it up in prayer and trying to drag them to the mosque. We got to do none of that. I took the principles of what we're taught and I transposed it into the educational environment. So let me share with you just a few. So if you come to the mosque, before you come in, you're checked at the door, right? So you can't bring contraband, you can't bring anything like that into the mosque. And if you refuse to give those things up, then you can't come in, right? So in the educational field, brother, I stood at my door every day for the entire school year without fail. And every student that walked in that classroom, of course, I greeted them as we're taught. I greeted them. I welcomed them to the classroom, but I also checked them to make sure that they were of the mind and ready to learn. So if they came to my class and they didn't have pencil, they didn't have pen, they didn't have notebook, they didn't have a book, they didn't have anything. So now you came here with nothing. So what is that telling me? What are you saying without saying? I ain't come to learn. I just came to act a fool. Because if you came to learn, you would have come prepared for the learning process. So absolutely not. See, in the nation, the reason that our meetings are peaceful is because we don't let the troublemaker in to create the disturbance. So why in the educational environment would I allow the troublemaker to come in? See, once they're in, now you got a hard time trying to get them out. No, you need to come in the right way or you don't come in at all. So the first thing I did, brother, one of the things, and this is small, was I made sure that the students that came into the classroom were prepared to learn. But even before that, I communicated with them. Even before you make it to the door of the mosque, there's somebody communicating with you the expectation. Take everything out of your pockets except loose change and dollar bills. So before that, I communicated to them what the expectation was for this class right here. So communicating that expectation, then meeting them at the door and making sure they lived up to that expectation, but then showing them the love that they deserve as a young student coming to the classroom, welcoming them to the classroom. Everything that we're taught, I transposed it into the educational environment. And Allah has blessed me to be successful everywhere I've gone in some of the so-called worst schools.
Man, that is I love that response. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm just envisioning, like, we need to have our own professional developments, right?
Yes, sir.
Within the Nation of Islam, for those who teach in our own schools, but also those who are still in the actual school system, because we have something to give and offer that's not being offered in other professional development. So we're coming up on our first break, and for those who are watching, Our brother, we just getting started, and his responses to the questions that we've asked thus far have been mind-blowing, and they're filled with very practical guidance and information that can be used. So if you're watching, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share if you know anybody who's in education or any youth, because our brother does a lot of work with the youth as well. So we'll be right back to continue this interview with our brother Abdul Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
And we're back, brothers and sisters, to have more, to continue this interview with our brother Abdul Muhammad. And you heard him talk about the principles that from the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad that he used as a classroom teacher. Now, in that same line, but I want to ask you this also, how are you using those same principles now as a school administrator, as a principal?
Yes, sir. That's a great question, brother. And it's the same. It's the same principles. I've transposed what we're taught into the learning environment. And that's why Allah has blessed us, or blessed me, in these schools with so much success. As a principal, you're not necessarily in the classroom, even though I am in the classroom, but you still have control of what happens inside of that school environment. You have a tremendous degree of control. You also have a tremendous degree of control of the teachers that are teaching the students in that environment, and also those other enrichment things that we do in the schools to really balance our students' education. So, now, brother, I do the same thing that I've always done as a teacher. Same thing, right? Now I just have a budget where I can pay for the things that I want to do. So as a teacher, every year, I would take my students to the Black Holocaust Museum in Milwaukee. Now, as a principal, I take my students on all of these different field trips, educational field trips, and I have a budget to pay for it. To give them these experiences. So the same principles that I transpose from what we're taught in the classroom, I did the same thing as a principal. The only difference now is that I have a budget to pay for the things that I want to do with our children. And I'll say this, brother, I've done a lot. Allah blessed me to do a lot in the field of education. But the greatest thing that I did with our children was to give them the knowledge of who they are. That's the greatest thing that had the greatest impact on our children, is by giving them the knowledge of self in the school and in the classroom. That's the greatest thing I've done.
That's beautiful, man. And that is what Almighty God Allah came himself to do. So that's blessings on top of blessings. So as you said this before, speaking from Mars Mariam, on different interviews. I saw in the interview with our brother Joshua Muhammad on People's Podcast, you talked about how you wear your suit and bow tie every day to work.
Yes,
and,
sir.
you do not hide your affiliation to
Not at
the
all.
Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Not
And
at
I'm
all.
sure as a result of that, you have faced some backlash because of
Absolutely.
that from school staff or
Right.
etc. So what kind of backlash have you experienced, and how did you handle such backlash?
Brother, that's a great question. So I'll say this to everybody out there. I never hid the fact that I was a Muslim, that I was in the Nation of Islam, that I was with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. My first job interview in Chicago was I wore a suit and a bow tie, and I had a white guy that interviewed me, and he's asked in the interview, I'm not making this up. In the interview, he's asking me illegal questions about my religion. So you're a Muslim? He's looking at my resume. They have Muslims, because I came from Louisiana. I graduated from Southern. He said, they have Muslims in Louisiana? I'm like, yeah, So I left that interview and I was like, man, I don't think this is going to be the spot. As I was walking out of the door, there was a black woman. Her name was Miss Johnson. And the black woman is always there supporting us. Her name was Miss Johnson. And all she saw was me in a suit and a bow tie. She wasn't in the interview. And she said, brother, we're going to hire you. We're going to hire you. And a few days later, Allah blessed me to be in that school. So now, brother, whenever truth comes, falsehood vanishes, and falsehood is forever a vanishing thing. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said this about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him that, brother, they've laid many traps for you, but you will strip them all and not get caught in one of them. So now, if that's true for him, then it's also true for us who follow him. So as an educator and a student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there have been many, many times where other people, white and black, have opposed the great work that Allah has blessed me to do. I'm talking about in the schools, our children are fighting each other and killing each other in the schools. And you would think that the white people and the so-called Negroes who claim that they love black children, if Muhammad can come in and talk to these children and teach these children and get these children to stop fighting each other and killing each other, you would think that they would celebrate the work that Muhammad is doing in the schools. And some of them do, but some of them oppose any good work that we do. And I'll give you some examples. All of my students at every school that I've ever been at, all they talk about is what they learned in Mr. Muhammad's class, in every class. So at one particular school, my students would come back and say, man, Mr. Muhammad, these other teachers, because all they do is talk about all the good things going on in my class. He said, man, they just saying that what you teach is a bunch of BS. What you teach is a bunch of BS. I never paid any attention to it. I just kept doing what I was doing. One day a student came to me and said, so-and-so said that what you're teaching is BS. So then I did what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us to do. I got the student, right? The minister said the quickest way to, how did he say it? The quickest way to manifest the contradiction is by bringing all parties together, right? So I got the student and I went to the teacher and I said, he said that you said what I was teaching was a bunch of BS. And the teacher was like, no, I ain't say that. I ain't say that. White teacher. So then I turned to the student. I said, well, you said that he said this. And the student was like, man, you did say that. You did say that. So then the teacher admitted it, right? And then, I had a Dr. Khaled moment and just kind of went in on the teacher real quick and was like, if you was a man, just come tell me. Why would you try to tell this to a child when you know where my room is? It's right here. Just come tell me how you feel about what I'm doing in my class. So all of these things, brother, but these are things that we should expect when you're doing the work of the resurrection. You should expect the opposition. Listen to what the Holy Quran says. The Holy Quran said, thus did we make for every prophet an enemy, devils from among men and jinn. So now Allah is telling his servants that every one of them has opposition, not from somebody else, but from himself. So every place that I've gone and done the great work of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, every place that I've gone, they plotted against me and did things to stop me from having this tremendous impact on the young people that Allah has blessed me to have all throughout the city of Chicago. But everything they did failed. And Allah has blessed me to continue to have this tremendous impact.
Oh, man, beautiful. And it's interesting the similar experiences that we've had regarding that. But that's something. It's my next question. You know, as you can bear witness to this, holding the attention and sparking the interest of young people is a skill. And it's a skill that good teachers develop the longer they teach, right?
Right.
So
yes.
How has that skill transferred over to your lecture preparation and delivery from the roster?
Brother, that's a great question. So now the brothers and sisters in the nation, they see me on the roster and they may wonder, how is he able to connect with these young people the way that he does and give these vivid examples to kind of explain what he's talking about, right? And the reason is because I've been teaching young people my entire adult life. So my whole life has been committed to our young people. That's all I know. That's all I do. So when you hear me teach by the grace of God, you hear me break things down in such a way that helps not just young people, but anybody to understand exactly what we're trying to get them to understand. So you'll see the visuals, because when you're teaching young people, if you have the visuals and the examples and the videos and the this and the experiments and the that, all of those things are teacher aids to help the young people to gain an understanding. So I bring those same principles. The same way, brother, you know, as being a teacher, you know that when you teach, you're also learning at the same time. And if you really want to get the students to have an understanding, you will teach in a way that will help them to understand the material that you're trying to get over. Some teachers teach in a way and they don't care whether there's an understanding, right? They just want to get from point A to point B. But anybody who is teaching so that the young people understand, then they're going to develop ways to help them with their understanding. So this is what my students have taught me. And when you see me on the rostrum, you see what my students have taught me in place on the rostrum at Mas Mariam and in other places.
Beautiful, man. Man, listen, we're going to have to, maybe I'll talk to people who, the brother who's over NNV, man. We need to do a show like this and get some of the other educators.
Yes, sir.
And to talk about this, because that, just hearing that and also what you have shared could help prevent many Black educators from leaving the school system. Absolutely. Which allows these 2-year programs, these white students who are coming in just trying to get their loans paid off to come in. Absolutely. And they're gone, man. But inshallah, we're going to have to do something like this. I think it's definitely needed. So time is going by fast. We're on up to our second break. But if you are like me, I know you're enjoying this interview. Continue to share it. Post your comments in the comment section. Hit the like button, hit the heart button. That can help with our algorithms and more people can see this interview. And we'll be back with more of this dynamic interview with our brother Abdul Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App, NNV News.
AsiaticMinds.com, the curriculum of study from the University of God's Mind. Education that enhances the quality of learning through a virtual school system. The science of mathematics, communication, and deductive reasoning. Our children are the future. Invest in your destiny. To enroll now, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Muhammad's economic blueprint the collective power of our dollars to build a future for ourselves. With 5 cents a day, 35 cents a week, $1.40 a month, and $18.20 a year multiplied by 16 million wage earners would give us $291 million in 1 year. Everyone can give 35 cents a week as an investment in our future. Donate now and see what our pennies, nickels, and dimes can accomplish. Visit economicblueprint.org.
And welcome back, brothers and sisters. So I want to get right into our next question. You know, while preparing for this interview, I came across these pictures, and brother will post them on. Yes. And they are of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaking at a high school that you helped to invite him there to speak. I think it was at a high school where you were working. Yes. Can you talk about the impact that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's words had on the students and the impact of the whole experience? What did it have on him? And did he share anything with you about how he felt about speaking to the students?
So I'll say this, brother. I spoke at Mas Mariam, and I was blessed to be on a call with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to give me feedback on that particular lecture. And he said, brother, is there anything, because I had just become assistant principal. He said, brother, is there anything that we can do to help you? And I said, brother minister, will you come and speak to the students at the school? And he said, yes, sir. So now, brother, that was my first year there. And of course, you know, the minister's schedule is very hectic. And so we had been trying to get him in to come speak to the students. And it wasn't until my third year that he actually came to speak to the students. So when he came to speak to those students, brother, we put every student in the school under the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's words, we know, are transformative, right? We absolutely know that they are. But what our people need, along with the transformative words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, are people that are going to be committed to working with them to bring about the change that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about, teaches us about. Some of us make the mistake of thinking that, well, you know, the minister spoke to them, so they never gonna fight again. Ain't nobody gonna cuss again. This, like, you know, like, come on, brothers and sisters. That's not even realistic, because if that was the case, then when he spoke to us, we would have never done anything wrong again. So there has to be some of us that work with our people and marry ourselves to the mission of working with our people. So myself, brother Benny Muhammad, sister Nicole Muhammad, we were all there doing the work every day of working with those young people. Now, even though I had invited the minister the first year that I was there, we were not ready to receive him that first year. Allah works in his own good time. By the time he came, we had put in so much work at that school and transformed that school and turned the whole school around. I'm telling you, they was fighting every day. Weed, guns, people getting robbed, stealing stuff out of school. Many of you who are in the nation, you're in a secluded environment, and many of us are divorced from the reality that Black people live under. So we in the nation and we're divorced from reality. Then when we meet a little bit of it, then we say, well, man, they savages. Well, who's supposed to civilize them then? Whose duty is it to civilize our people, since the enemy has made our people savage? Unfortunately, we have become condemners of our people rather than taking the teachings that we've been taught and becoming saviors of our people. So when the minister came to the school, we had put in 3 years of work and had turned the whole school around. Now, I'm not a big brother. I'm not intimidating these young people because, oh, man, he's so much bigger than them. And, man, I'm scared because look like he going to slam me. And it don't take none of that. What it takes is somebody who's unafraid to correct young people And when we go in these schools, that's the spirit that we have. We love them, but we're not going to tolerate no foolishness from nobody, period. So Allah blessed us to turn the school around. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came and spoke, and listen to what he said. We were backstage, and we had the whole auditorium full of students. Now, any of you who work in schools, you know that that's a prime recipe for people to act a fool. You know, to fill up an auditorium may take you 25 to 30 minutes to get everybody in there and seated. So now, wasn't no fights, wasn't no cussing, wasn't no loud talking, with none of that. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pulled me to the side and said, Brother this is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He said, Brother Abdul, I can tell that you've been working with them because they're so civilized. And he was 100% correct. We put in years of work at that school to civilize our children. And this is what it takes. It takes the word from him, but it also takes us being in the streets, being in the school, being with our people, being an example, so that the word, the beautiful, perfect word that he gives matches the example of the person that's in front of them. And the people have something to pull up on so they can become strong, so they can change their reality. So, brother, that day that the minister came was the greatest day in my educational career, because he came and he spoke to those students, and we had parents coming up to the school thanking us for bringing the minister to speak to the students. And it was just a beautiful day. But now, at the same time, when you make moves like that, then you also become a target of the enemy, who does not want our children to get any words of guidance or direction from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That is a target that I wear proudly on my back every single day, because I have no regrets of bringing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to our school to speak to our children in our community. No regrets.
That answer, brother, is a beautiful answer, and is one that needs to be studied, because it shows there is no mystery God. Right. Yes, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan comes to speak, that's the first phase. He's putting the seed down, but somebody has to cultivate the seed, water the seed, protect the seed against pests, and all that other type of stuff. Beautiful, man. And my next question I want to ask is, you've had the opportunity to teach in the public school system, youth correctional facilities, as well as Muhammad University of Islam. When you reflect on those different environments, what are some of the similarities and differences that you have noticed?
Man, that's a great question, brother. First of all, I'll say this. Most of the public schools are hell, right? And Muhammad University is heaven. And I worked there, and I've come and visited back and forth. And not that you can't make the public school a heaven as well, because that's actually possible. But it is a difference. But there are some similarities, because we're dealing with children. The children at Muhammad University of Islam, Muslim children, believe it or not, parents, they're still children. They're still going to do what children do. They're still going to act like children act, even though you gave them this great Arabic name that has this great meaning, does not negate the fact that they're still children. Their brains are still developing, and they need us to help them to learn and grow. So if you at Muhammad University and you find out that Abdul, Kareem, Malik, Shabazz, Muhammad Ali is smoking weed, or you at whatever school and you find out that Tyrone Jackson is smoking weed, it's a child. They're going to experiment, but we have to be there. We have to be the ones there, giving them knowledge, giving them guidance, giving them direction, giving them support, giving them discipline, giving them correction. We have to be the ones there in either environment if we want to produce a product that will be beneficial to our community. So what it requires when you're working with children, as some of you know, it requires a lot of patience, because they're not, as they're on their journey, they're evolving and changing, and they're not what God wants them to be, or even what their parents want them to be. But if you abort the process of their development, they'll never become what you want them to become. You hear people say, man, you can't talk to these children. It just goes in one ear and out the other. That's absolutely false. See, you think because when we talk to them, the talk is not motivated by love, because love is patient. When we talk to them, it's motivated by vanity, because I talked to you and you didn't change after I talked to you. So it must be going in one ear and out the other, because even though we live in a world of nature, we're looking for an immediate change because we said some words to a child. And if the change is not immediate, then we think that it's going in one ear and out the other, rather than say what we know is true and give discipline and correction and guidance and knowledge, and out of love be patient and wait for change, right? Which is normal, which is what everybody did for us, right? We want that change to be immediate because it's more vanity. So we can say, well, I said, and look at what happened. And brother, that's the wrong attitude to have. Our children, there's nothing wrong with our children. Absolutely nothing. I've been working with them my entire adult life. They just need to be taught. The Bible says, how can they know except they have a teacher? And how can they have a teacher except one be sent? And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the teacher that's sent by God, but he taught us. So now it's our responsibility to take what he taught us and teach that to our people. And if we do that, then you'll see the transformation of our people. You said, brother, you worked in the jail. I worked in the school that's in the jail. I'm telling you right now, people who kill people, rape people, sexual assault. I work with them every day. Gangbangers, GDs, BDs, vice lords, four corner hustlers, Moes, Latin Kings, EBK, whatever you say, all the stuff that you see on television in Chicago, all the killings from young people, I work with them every day inside the jail. Now, brother, before I got there, they were never able to put all of these young people in the same room before I got there. When I was there, brother, I can't even tell you the amount of things that we did. But Allah blessed me with his spirit with these young people. And we were able to put all of them in the same space for the first time ever, because I was there teaching them, guiding them, giving them knowledge and direction and discipline. So we were able to put them all in the same place on multiple occasions, and there wasn't a single incident. That never happened before. So it's our responsibility to teach our young people.
Listen, brother, you're dealing, man, and you're saying so much, but beautiful, man. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And anybody who's in education, or even as it relates to our people, even in the Nation of Islam, what our brother said, talking about how some of us have become condemners, and we forgot that we've been raised to be saviors.
Absolutely.
I think we really need to listen. Let me get this question in before the break.
Yes,
so in 2021, Chicago saw a spike in juveniles aged 17 and younger that were arrested for first-degree murder.
Yes, sir.
Some of them were too young to legally drive, but apparently they were old enough to pull a trigger, right?
Yes,
so WGNN investigative news reporter obtained police data that they showed like the total of 36 juveniles were arrested for homicide that year, 35% increase from 2019. I just get I'm giving those numbers because I want to ask this question to you. Some will hear those numbers and those stats, and their fate will be challenged, and their belief in the resurrection of our people will be challenged.
Absolutely.
And like you just said, in the school systems, you see it. You see it. So my question to you is, as an educator who has spent years dealing with the youth, and outside of an educator, being a member of the Nation of Islam who is active, how do you prevent such stats from negatively impacting your spirit and your belief in the resurrection?
Brother, it's a couple of reasons, but I've told people before that in this educational field, is going to do one of two things. Either you're going to rise to the occasion and say, Master Farad Muhammad is God, and he's given me the power to change this. Or you're going to be so overwhelmed, you're like, man, he can't change this right here. And then it's going to try your faith in such a way that you fall out of faith because it's just that bad, right? But now, brother, we look at those stats, right? We who are a little older, look at those stats. And because we're older and a little more mature, some of us look at that and then we're like, man, it's just no hope for these young people. But now, brothers and sisters, listen to me. I know what I'm about to say is going to hurt your feelings because you want to condemn these young people as everything other than what they really are. Most of us who came in the nation in the 1990s, right? I came in the 90s. We're older now, right? If you go back and look at what we were doing in the 90s, in the mid 90s, it was worse than what's happening right now. So you want to condemn a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 18-year-old for crime that was happening before they were even born. Are they the originators? So it wasn't no murders. And to these little young people with the tight, skinny jeans, it wasn't no killing in Chicago before Chief Keef and G Herbo. They wasn't shooting people before that? Come on, brothers and sisters. So I ask people who bring these various stats, and I'm not saying, I don't want us to get it twisted. Are you saying that we don't need to do anything? Absolutely not. That's why we're doing something right now. But if we make the mistake of thinking that the work that we have done for all of these years has not had an impact, then we've been deceived by the enemy. Our work that we've been doing has had a tremendous impact on these young people. So let me prove it. I ask people when I travel the country, what year did Chicago, since they always want to talk about Chicago, have the highest homicide rate in the history of the city? And most people don't know. The year of the highest homicide rate in Chicago was 1974 with 979 homicides. What? Wait a minute, bro. No, brother, no. You mean it wasn't no gangster rap, wasn't no Chief Keef, wasn't no Lil Herb, wasn't no Young Thug, wasn't none of that? Wasn't none of that. So now you trying to blame the rapper for the murders when in 1974, the homicide rate was 3 times what it is right now. And we were listening to Frankie Beverly and Mays. We were listening to the Temptations. We was listening to the Jackson 5. We didn't have 500 channels on television. We didn't have social media. We didn't have any of that. But in 1974 in Chicago, the homicide rate, 979 homicides. Now, people will lie and say, well, see, the minister, what is he doing? You saw that it was a shooting in Chicago, as if he's responsible for all shootings. It was a shooting in Chicago. What is Farrakhan doing? Brother, if the nation was at its height in 1974, at its height. So you mean to tell me at the height of the nation prior to 75, the highest homicide rate was 1974? Okay. And that's now, what was the second highest? I know you don't know because you just believe in everything you watch on television. The second highest homicide rate in Chicago was 1994. Yeah, the year before the Million Man March. So now this is why the Honorable, we forget we're that generation that was doing all of that killing in the early and middle 90s, the late 80s and early 90s. We're that generation. Now we're a little bit older and we survived that. Now we're looking at this younger generation who's not killing like we was killing. And we want to condemn them. But come on, brothers and sisters. The second highest homicide rate was 1994. But the reason that so they never talk about this. The reason that the homicide rate went down from 94 probably to about 2016, I believe. I don't have it right in front of me. From 1994 to about 2016, homicides went down every year in Chicago and across the country. But no one asked the question, what happened that caused the homicide rate to go down every year from 1995 all the way to 2016? And the thing that happened is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan led the Million Man March and did what? Did exactly what we just got finished talking about. Taught our people, gave our people knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, helped to civilize our people. And then we went back and went to work in all of these cities. And now we see the impact of the work that we did coming from the Million Man March. So now, brothers and sisters, since 2016, we've noticed that the numbers have started to go up, but not anywhere near 1974 and anywhere near 1994. So we're here condemning these young people instead of teaching them, which is what the minister did to us. He didn't condemn us. He taught us. And from 95 all the way to 2016, we saw the homicide rate go down all throughout the United States of America because of the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and those Black leaders that united with him and those Black organizations, and really the brothers who came to the march, going back to their cities and doing what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked us to do. It's our responsibility to teach our people so that we can lower what we're seeing in all of our cities as far as the homicides.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let me get to this. We're gonna get to this next break, and then but trust me, but it is needed, because what our people don't really understand is that, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, that America made niggas.
Absolutely.
And now they made niggas, and then they're gonna come back and try to say that the musical, the expression of what comes out of a mindset of a nigga. Right. Now, this is the reason why violence and a moral decline. No, you made this. So we're going to get back. We'll come right back, brothers and sisters, ask these last two questions to our brothers. So stay tuned. Peace.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
AsiaticMinds.com, the curriculum of study from the University of God's Mind. Education that enhances the quality of learning through a virtual school system. The science of mathematics, communication, and deductive reasoning. Our children are the future. Invest in your destiny. To enroll now, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small but significant steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
So we're back, and I want to get these last questions in. So, you talked about the interaction that you've had with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the school, and I know that you've had several interactions with him. If you can, I want you to reflect on your interactions with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's guidance that he has shared with you, your talks that you've had with him. Is there anyone in particular that you can share that comes to mind that often resonates in your mind?
Brother, of the years that I've been in Chicago, so the greatest thing that about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that I could share is the love that he has for our people, but for us as well, who are his students and his followers. And I just know that when I'm with him and the times that I've met him, just the supreme love that he's shown me, of course, my family, my children, in a few of our conversations. And that he shared, he's always just kind of giving me guidance and direction. I will say this, that when I was going through a trial because of the work that I was doing in Chicago among our young people, and there were those who didn't like that work and they plotted against me and tried to stop me from doing this work with our young people. I had a meeting with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in that meeting, some of the things that he shared with me, he said, brother, they want to control the colony from the outside with those on the inside that they can't control. He said, brother, we're a colony, and they want to control the colony from the outside with those on the inside who they can't control. Then he said, brother, never compromise your role as a resurrector. Then he said, the next time they question you, you need to question them. You need to tell them, don't you see the work that I'm doing in here? Don't you see how I'm transforming these children's lives? Why would you condemn me and the work that I'm doing? He said, brother, you just need to go in on them. So, brother, I was just so, of course, excited. And I'm waiting for the opportunity to follow those instructions from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So the next time I get called to a meeting about the work that Allah is blessing me to do with our young people to civilize them, I'm going to flip the script on them exactly as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan instructed me to do.
Praise be to Allah. And I asked many people this question. I want to get your response to it. You know, the title of this show is I Have a Testimony. And it's based on that scripture. It says, by the power of the blood of the Lamb and the power of their testimony, that Satan was able to, the dragon was able to be defeated. If you had the opportunity to stand before the world and give a testimony about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that would defy and prove wrong what the media and the enemies of him and us say about him, what would your testimony be?
Brother, my testimony would be exactly like the man in the Bible who said, man, I don't know nothing about what y'all talking about, right? That's that Louisiana kind of, I don't know nothing about what y'all talking about. All I know is that I was blind and now I see. Everything else is secondary. So with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's work, brothers and sisters, look at the product that is produced from the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. His work bears witness to who he is. So the greatest testimony that we can give is our example of transformation in our lives from listening to what this man and implementing and following what this man has been teaching us for all of these years. This is the greatest testimony that we can give. Brothers and sisters, I cannot describe to you the love that Allah has blessed me to receive from the young people who I have touched in the city of Chicago. I can't even describe the love because the love is so overwhelming. The only reason that I am able to impact these young people the way that I impact these young people is because of what I was taught from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, brother, I remember, and I'll end with this. I don't know how much time we have, and I have a lot to say on these questions. When I was teaching, it was like the last day of school, and it was a Jewish teacher who was 2 doors down from me, right? And he came to me on the last day of school. Listen to what he said. Now, most of them never came like this, that tried to plot on me and failed, because Allah is with me and with us. He came to me on the last day of school. Listen to what he said. He said, Mr. Muhammad, I don't like Minister Farrakhan, but I see the work that you're doing with these children, and I want to come and talk to you about the work that you're doing. We never had that conversation, but the fact that he was courageous enough just to come to me and say that, let me know he was sincere. But my point is that the people who are in the schools with me and in the community with me that don't like the minister. They see the work that we do. They see the work that you do in New Orleans that we're not getting paid for. We do for free out of our love for our people. So the greatest testimony that we can give, brothers and sisters, is the transformation of our lives. I know where I was before I accepted the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was blind, deaf, and dumb, and so were you. So that's the greatest testimony that we can give, even though there's a lot to say, even though we can defend the minister on every point, we can defend the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, I'll say this, and I'm not going to go in detail, but I will say this. Brothers and sisters, everywhere that Allah blessed me to go to work with these young people, including when I was working with the students that was in jail and they were killing people. Everywhere that I've gone, the enemy, who don't care nothing about black children, has falsely accused me of something that I did not do. Everywhere that I've gone. So when this happens, this lets me know that I'm doing something right. But it also gives me insight into the man that God raised up in our midst, because the enemy, all they have nothing of truth. All they have is false accusations against the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And it's not our fault that you believe a lie. It's not our fault that you believed after all these years he had something to do with the assassination of Malcolm X. He's lived his life in the public for over 60 years. But the man who really had something to do with the assassination of Malcolm X, he didn't live his life in the public and waited till he was dead to have his nephew read a letter of his involvement in Malcolm's assassination. So what are we talking about? The enemy is always going to lay out false accusations against the messenger of God and anyone who tells the truth and anyone that tries to raise our people up. So why would you believe the lies of the enemy when we have the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan right in front of us?
Beautiful, man. Beautiful, my brother. And as we get ready to close, I know it's only an hour show minus the actual commercial breaks and stuff like that. Was there anything you wanted to say during the interview that you didn't get opportunity to share? And if so, here's your opportunity.
Brother, it was a lot, because you asked a lot of great questions about education, and it could be a whole show just on that, because I've spent my life in education. I would just say, brothers and sisters, that it's our responsibility, our duty to work with our people in all of these cities. One of the things that, now we talked about some of the work that we do in the schools, but then there's also the work that we do in the community here in Chicago and in other cities, because we have to go after our people in various different types of ways. So Allah has blessed us in Chicago to do things to attract our young people here in the city. And I'll just share a few examples. We do artists versus DJs basketball game every year. And we've done it for this year will be the 5th year. So we invite the DJs, we invite the artists, the rappers, and different people like that, along with the FOI. We have it at Muhammad University of Islam. But I remember, I think the 3rd year that we did it, if I remember correctly, when all these little Chicago artists were there, the students from MUI, these are all the people that they look up to, but they're all there at MUI, Muhammad University of Islam, to be a part of this effort to help stem some of this violence that is in the community. So these are some of the things we do. We just had, about a month ago, we just had a big talent show here in Chicago. I believe it's posted online somewhere. But we do this every year. The thing that we can't do is just do a one-time thing and think like, we talked to them or we did this. Nah, you got to be consistent when you're dealing with our people. So we do these things every year. And the more we do them, the more reach and impact that we have on our young people in the city of Chicago. So these are the things that we're committed to. These are the things that we work and do in the schools, but also in the city, to try to go after our young people and get next to them so that we can talk some sense in their head.
Beautiful, man. And beautiful.
And I'll say this, I just want to say this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the school that I worked at that was inside of the jail, brother, I haven't worked there in 5 years. I'm not the principal there anymore. That was 5 years ago. But because Allah blessed me to have such a great relationship and do so much work. It's been 5 years and I've been back. You showed that picture with Jay Prince. I wasn't working there when I brought Jay Prince there, but I've done over 50 different events since I left because I made a commitment to those children that even though I'm not going to be your assistant principal anymore, I'm committed to coming back and working with you. So the children that are there now, they don't know me. I wasn't their assistant principal. It's been 5 years. All of them have graduated that I knew. But because I'm committed to our children, then I've been back to that place over 50 times. Now, many of you are familiar, and I'm going to end with this, brother. Many of you are familiar with the play Hamilton. It's like the greatest grossing play in the history of stage plays. I went to see it. It was great. You should go see it if you haven't seen it. Now, when I was there at the juvenile facility as the assistant principal of the school, I got an email and it said that 1,900 students in Chicago went to go see Hamilton, right? So I was like, man, that's great. So I emailed the producer and I said, look, I work at a school in jail, inside the jail, a high school. My students can't come see Hamilton. Will you all bring the play in the jail so that our students can see it? So I started talking with the executive producer of the Chicago Hamilton play. And at that time, I was still working at the facility. So, we didn't bring it that year. And we didn't bring it. And then I became principal of another school. So I was at a whole nother school. I took my students to go see Hamilton at the new school that I was at. And it was so good. I don't know if you all have seen it. I love rap music. So the play was great. And I was like, man, this is just great. So then it had been a year since we tried to bring it to the facility. So I reached back out to the producer of the Chicago producer of Hamilton, got everything back on track, brought everybody together, and brought Hamilton to the juvenile detention center. Now, brother, when I was talking to the producer, listen to what she said. She said, Hamilton has only left the stage twice since we've been doing it. Once for Barack Obama at the White House and once for the students at the juvenile detention center. And I wasn't even the principal there. There was a new principal taking credit for my work. No, he wasn't taking credit, but I wasn't the principal there, but I was committed to the students. And we brought the play and they did the play Hamilton, an abbreviated version, inside of the juvenile detention center. That's just one of the things that Allah blessed us to do. But my commitment is not because it's a job. My commitment is because I love our children. So no matter where they are. So, brother, I just, it's a lot that I could say, but I'll end it there. This is the spirit that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gives to all of us who are his students and his helpers in the cause of Islam.
And that's why.
Thank you for having me on your show, my brother.
Man, beautiful. And this is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that in this dispensation, he said love is the key ingredient. He said, especially having love for the people that Allah God himself came for. And that's why you're so successful. You have that love, man. May Allah continue to bless you.
Yes, sir.
Inshallah, I'll be reaching out to you,
Yes,
man,
sir.
and we can do something. I just come up with just formulate the idea some more. But I think we need to have a larger discussion with the educators in our nation that can help those brothers and sisters who are barely holding on in these school systems. Because I work in the school system and I know some very great teachers, man, and they have been talking about, listen, they're ready to start winding down.
Yes,
and that's not good for our youth.
So good for our children, brother.
Thank you, my brother. May Allah continue to bless you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your time and the invitation.
Yes, sir.
May Allah bless you as well.
You too. And so for those who are watching, if you came in on the tail end of this interview, this is one of the many that you definitely need to go back and watch. So make sure you go back and watch this interview and make sure you share it with others as well. The brother really laid it down by Allah's grace and permission. So this is your brother Willie Muhammad, signing off with I Have a Testimony on NNV, National Network View. Peace.
Go home and study. See, many of you don't study your religion. Go ahead. And you think you're going to attain something without study. But if you believe in something, you need to study it so you can become proficient in what you do. Now watch this.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.